Hey, what is up, mortals? I welcome to part 6 season 1 of What If Midoriya Was an All-for-One fan. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. Where was he? Hagakure wondered to herself as she looked around the school cafeteria. She wasn't alone in her search as Minta and Gyro were also watching the cafeteria at lunch for the green-haired teen. Bakugo scoffed at both Hagakure and Minta. You're looking for Izuku, aren't ya? Wanna thank him for keeping here in hero studies. Well, he isn't here today. He and his mom are at a funeral for his scumbag dad. Wanna and some of 1B stared at Bakugo, surprised that he didn't insult Midoriya or call him Deku like when he'd usually complain about the telekinetic teen. So what changed? Soon enough, Ada broke the tension by lecturing Bakugo on his insensitive remark about Midoriya's now-dead father, only for Kamakiri of all people to jump in to take Bakugo's side. Hate to break it to you, Speedy, but Izuku had an awful relationship with his old man. I'd say more, but it's not our place to say. Right, Monoma? Bakugo, you wanna know? You'd best go to the source. Kamakiri looked to Monoma and Bakugo, getting looks of agreement that this wasn't their story to tell. Ada sat down apologizing to Bakugo as he returned to his food. Eventually the bell rang and everyone returned to their classes for the day. At the end of the day, Present Mike showed up again just like he did at the start of the day, for homeroom instead of Aizawa. Alright, little listeners, I'm sure I don't have to spell out for you the obviousness of Aizawa's absence today. So to answer any questions, let me give you all a beat explaining why. In short, a student's parent was targeted by a villain attack and was murdered. All signs point to it being planned and done by someone a cut above your average thug. So my buddy Aizawa is currently watching over the rest of the family and the student today to make sure they aren't next. The principal also wanted me to play this track for you little listeners, so pay attention. Present Mike played a disc he had been given by Nezu, a disc that had been handed out to all UA teachers so they could play it in an announcement at the end of the day. Students, due to the seemingly targeted attack on another student's family member that had resulted in said family member's demise, it is now advised that you please keep in contact with all immediate family members no matter your relationship, as they could be targeted next. Furthermore, we will be implementing a dorm system in order to best keep you protected. Please have your parents or guardians sign off on the permission forms so we can keep you as safe as we can. On UA grounds. On an unrelated note, someone decided to finally use my suggestion box, and from now on Heroics courses of A and B will have Heroics classes together in order to streamline learning. The classes from the first years to the third listened to this announcement and a feeling of unease washed over them all. Hero course or not, they were in UA and were likely fair targets for something like this. It was hitting many of them just how much they'd have to lose if the villains knew where to strike, which clearly in one case they did. Elsewhere, Izuku, his mother, various family friends, and Hisashi's family all stood gathered around a grave for the dead ex-husband and father, watching as the ashes of various random things Shigaraki had disintegrated to cover up the kidnapping were spread. Midoriya kept a stoic face that would read to most as someone putting on a brave face for now, when in reality it was a facade. Internally, the young teen was elated. Dr. Yujiko said it'd take until at least the summer, maybe longer, for him to finish what he had requested of his new personal Namu that used his father as the base. But Hisashi wouldn't be the only one to contribute to this masterpiece of a Namu, as the doctor had named it, seeing Midoriya's request. Midoriya sat at home watching videos on his computer. Then a breaking news broadcast came up interrupting him watching this video by some master thief called Gentle Criminal. His channel had improved slightly since Midoriya last noticed his videos. Maybe he took some editing lessons, or perhaps he now has an editor. This was pure speculation on a villain he'd likely not meet. Paying attention to the news, Midoriya smiled widely again as it was declared the Golden Fox, as they decided to name them based on reports of a Golden Fox mask had struck again, this time killing a sludge villain imprisoned by All Might almost a month ago. Midoriya smiled, thinking to himself that it was wonderful Shigaraki was helping him collect subjects for his Namu and covering them up as murders with ashes from something he disintegrated earlier. Midoriya returned to classes at UA the next day, as did Aizawa, now satisfied that the murder of Hisashi wasn't targeted to get to anyone at UA, just wrong place, wrong time against a new serial killer. If only he knew. Vlad King asked Midoriya to stand in front of Class 1B quickly, as he felt it should be appropriate to not just introduce himself, as he didn't get a chance to yesterday, and if he felt comfortable with it, explaining his reason for being absent yesterday, which Midoriya agreed to, seeing no need to hide this. Hey everyone, I'm Izuku Midoriya, and my quirk is telekinetic wrath. Sensei, can we talk after this privately quickly? Thank you. Right, Sue, the student whose parent was murdered by that Golden Fox villain. Yeah, that was me. He killed my dad. I'm sorry if I worried any of you by not being here yesterday. Class 1B instantly sympathized with Midoriya, feeling sorry for his plight. What absolute suckers. As asked, Vlad King dismissed his class to go get their hero costumes and head to Ground Beta to join one of for a combat heroics lesson with All Might. True to his word, Vlad King stayed behind to listen to whatever Midoriya wanted to discuss. Sorry to just bring this up, Vlad-sensei, but, well, a new part of my quirk awakened when I found out my dad had been. I was just so angry and I felt like my head was burning, then it just stopped and I discovered I could make flames somehow. They didn't burn me, but they did start a few fires. If Aizawa didn't erase my quirk, the fires would have never stopped. They just vanished after he erased my quirk. Oh, and the fire extinguisher and water we tried on the flames to put them out did nothing. I think I have a new piece of my quirk that awakened when I got so angry at that killer. Vlad nodded understandingly and noted down Midoriya's description of his new ability, deciding to bring this up later with Aizawa, Nezu, and Recovery Girl to get his quirk updated and get Aizawa's side of the story. Midoriya walked out into ground beta, his lab coat billowing in the wind, with his claw pack attached to his back by connecting to his chest plate and that dark eight-eyed helmet covering his face whilst masking his voice slightly. All Might looked at him with a smile hiding his true feelings. He felt it again, that dread, but it was worse this time. What was the matter with him? Why did a boy no older than 15 send his fight or flight responses into overdrive, and how was he the only one to pick this up? It had to be his imagination. Yes, All Might thought to himself, it was just my imagination, he assured himself. All as he explained the exercise with Aizawa at his side, filling in anything he missed out. Okay, good to see you all look the part of heroes. I know what they say about clothes making the pros. So anyway, yes. In this exercise you will all be teamed up into groups of 2. One member will be from Class 1 of the other Class 1B. This is to promote camaraderie amongst your fellow hero students no matter their class. Aizawa sighed, being too tired to deal with All Might's shouting. The only upside was it wasn't as bad as Mike's. Aizawa proceeded to lift up 2 boxes marked to NB. He began listing off the pairings. Midoriya waited patiently for his pairing. Shoto Todoroki and Izuku. Midoriya, you're up against Mashiro Shoji and Kanoko Komori. Okay, and lastly Todoroki. Midoriya, you two are our villain team. Ajiro, Komori, you're the hero teams. Now get into position, you 4. So Midoriya was up against someone with a tail and Komori who had a mushroom quirk, while he was teamed up with an antisocial dual hair-colored teen with an ice and fire quirk. At least Midoriya got to be a villain in this exercise, but probably best not to go all out. It might be good to fumble a few lines or something. Todoroki looked unamused at Midoriya but was clearly listening to his plan since he didn't steer him wrong in the entrance exam. Mid-roll, Honey. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it is Honey. Honey automatically saves you money when you check out on sites like Amazon, Papa John's, Kohl's. Wherever you shop, it's a good chance that Honey can save you money. All you have to do when you're checking out at these major sites, click that little orange button and it will scan the entire internet and find discount codes for you. It takes 2 clicks to install Honey. Now anytime you check out, Honey will scan the entire internet and find coupon codes for you. If there is a coupon code, they will find it. And if there's not a coupon code, you can rest assured that you are getting the best price possible, and there literally is not one available on the internet. If you install Honey right now, you can save like $50 to $100 on your shopping, doing nothing. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks, 10 million people use it, 100,000 5-star reviews. Unless you hate money, you should install Honey. I assume that blank stare means you're listening. Okay, then. So I'll shatter the stairs with my quirk, reducing them to rubble, and I'll also block the windows with those crates so we don't get caught by surprise that way. Now we have the problem of Komori, the girl who is dressed like a mushroom. She'll likely flood the building with spores from her mushrooms that'll knock us out if we inhale too many. So I'll need you to— Before he could speak further, Todoroki cut him off with a blunt reply. No, I refuse to use his fire. Midoriya stared at him in disbelief and shook his head. Great, just great. He also got paired with someone with daddy issues, but then again, if Endeavor was your father, wouldn't you? Ugh. Fine, I'll deal with her spores, but you have to use your ice to help block off those windows and make the rubble harder to get past, and if those obstacles fail, I'll need your backup. Todoroki nodded, satisfied with Midoriya's plan, and they put their remaining prep time to use by rendering the windows and stairs near impossible to use. They had some time to kill as they waited for prep time to run out, and Todoroki looked at Midoriya, asking him a question. Midoriya, what if I freeze the bomb in an ice block so they can't get it in case one of them sneaks by us? Midoriya put his hand to his helmet's chin and nodded. Todoroki soon followed up with a second question as he froze the bomb, the question catching Midoriya off guard. Hey, how come you defended Mineta and Hagakure? Sensei Aizawa was going to expel them to general studies, but you stopped him. You made good points, but why did you do it? Midoriya sighed through his voice changer, shrugging. The class watched and listened to this conversation between them. They all had this question but never had the answers. I guess I hate to see wasted potential. If heroes are really going to hold a candle to some of the villains that are emerging today, we need to use every possible resource we can, and if you think about it, quirks are a resource for us to combat the evils of this world. Now, I don't disapprove of Aizawa's teaching methods. The results speak for themselves, but it's strange he didn't recognize the potential of someone who is literally invisible and someone who can make nearly inescapable traps using his hair, or I think it's his hair. Todoroki nodded along at Midoriya's reasoning, even if it was almost all a bunch of lies. Sure, Midoriya saw the usefulness in their quirks, but he also saw their potential for villainy as opposed to heroics. The buzzer sounded, signaling the start of the exercise. Midoriya ran to the nearest staircase, activating his thermal vision, and could see Komori crouched in a hall, likely doing as he predicted since Ajiro kept his distance. Midoriya then shouted down the stairs, catching her attention, purposefully cracking his voice at the end to throw away any suspicions of him actually being quite villainous as he pointed his hands down the stairs, shouting an attack name, all as Todoroki watched confused. As he roared the special move's name out, the walls, ceilings, and floors burst into flames, incinerating Komori's mushrooms and spores. Midoriya quickly called out down the stairs, seeing that his flames almost hit Komori and Shoji. Crap. Sorry guys, I'm still getting used to using the fire from my dad's genes. I promise I'll explain when the match is done. Todoroki eyed Midoriya with suspicion, confused on how he had a fire quirk mixed with his telekinesis all of a sudden, plus he said it was from his father. He couldn't be, could he? Unable to get past the fire or the windows, eventually the hero team signaled that they gave up. As expected, Midoriya was bombarded with questions from nearly everyone on what he just did with the fire. Before he had a chance to speak, Aizawa spoke for him. It's his father's quirk mixing with his mother's that had awakened last night. Unless he stops focusing on the flames or I erase his quirk when creating the flames, nothing can extinguish them as far as we know. It seemed like it was triggered by an outburst of rage, but from the looks of it, Midoriya can use it as long as he focuses, which is good. That's progress. After the other teams had their turns at the exercise, lunch came along. Midoriya sat with Monoma and Kamakiri, but the three were soon joined by four others: Todoroki, Jiro, Minda, and Hagakure. Midoriya, do you know who your father is? This seemingly out-of-nowhere question made Midoriya almost choke on his katsudon. He cleared his throat, looking at Todoroki dumbfounded. Well, yeah, Hisashi Ricotta. Why? Oh, haha. Todoroki, no, I'm not related to you. My dad also had a fire quirk. He could breathe fire. Guess his quirk genes were recessive and didn't awaken like my mom's did. It got awakened by me getting seriously pissed off at that monster who killed him, and his fire quirk and my mom's must have merged or something. No idea, honestly, I'm no quirk doctor. Midoriya laughed off the question, shrugging. This seemed to satisfy the dual quirk user, who left the table to return to his own quiet corner to eat his soba in peace. Next came Jiro, who pointed a jack at Midoriya's face. Okay, we have a little more privacy. Now, I talked with these two and have been listening and watching you. You seem to change personalities at the drop of a hat. Not to mention, two phones are pretty suspicious, Midoriya. That's not even going into who you talk to on those phones. It's strange how this Tamura guy and Yumaki guy both sound the same, and let's not forget your disappearing acts on the way home. Bakugo may not have seen you do it, but I saw you go through that portal. Better come clean. What was it they called you? Oh yeah, tactic kill. Midoriya scowled at Jiro. He exuded killing intent, focused entirely on her. Never in her life had she felt so terrified. However, she had to hold steadfast in the face of Midoriya. While out of everyone here, it took you to figure the real me out first. Tell you what, I'll explain everything once school's out to all five of you. We don't have long until lunch is over anyway, so I don't exactly have the time right now, plus I like my privacy. Jiro frowned, nodding at him, knowing this was clearly the only way to get answers without violence, and knowing Midoriya's capabilities from what she saw in the exercise and Minda's account on the entrance exam, he could kill everyone in this room if he wanted to, just by focusing hard enough and telekinetically snapping their necks. Midoriya walked the five down his usual route home and sent a quick text to Kurogiri to open a portal at the end of the alleyway that leads to a dead end. Midoriya led them down the alley, and as the portal opened, he turned around grinning and pushed them in with a nod of his head and his quirk. Following them soon after, a shaggy male covered in hands and wearing a golden fox mask turned to look at the portal and those that fell through it. New recruits, Izuku. Can't say they look like much, Shigaraki said as he lazily looked them over. Kinda, Tamura. One of them decided to be a nosy pain in the ass and figured me out. As Midoriya spoke to Shigaraki, the two villains looked at Jiro. Alright, well, it's pretty obvious you're a villain now. I mean, working for the Golden Fox. Didn't he kill your dad? More importantly, why would a villain help two people stay in a hero school to be heroes? Midoriya walked up to Jiro, putting an arm around her as he smiled. It's quite simple, my intelligent little detective. I saw them for what they were. People, not just weapons to be used in a pointless war against villains. Neither side is going to win if we continue as we are. If we don't change things, any children we bring into this world will just be inheriting our war and our children's children and so on until finally it happens. The quirk singularity. That's where my master comes in. He is the only one able to prevent the singularity event using his quirk. Now Hagakure, Minta, you two have extremely versatile and useful quirks, so you tell me, did it make any sense that the guy with an eye quirk was going to kick you out of heroics? Cause I'd like to see that hobo-looking caffeine addict do any better than either of you at our age in those tests. Midoriya began to monologue with a grin, shrugging at the three giving answers and posing rhetorical questions. Gyro couldn't believe it, but this villain was making too much sense for comfort. Furthermore, I hate to break this news to you, but you have no hope of being heroes unless you go for being underground heroes. Which isn't what you want, is it? You want to be known, to get praise. Well, sadly nobody pays any mind to what they can't see or find to be too underwhelming. Good thing we here at the League of Villains don't care about that kind of stuff. No, we actually find the value and strength in everyone and train them to hone it, to grow stronger with it and become the best champions for a new world era. Minta stood up and looked at Midoriya, offering a handshake. Once Midoriya had finished his piece. Midoriya, you were the first person to treat me like I was worth something, like an actual person. You even saw I acted like a perv sometimes, but you still didn't look at me like something you just stepped in. If that's where this league thing goes, then count me in. Midoriya chuckled, shaking his hand. Midoriya's eyes flashing briefly as a gift from his idol activated. Midoriya heard in his thoughts his voice echo out the word truth. Hagakure walked up to Midoriya, sighing. You're right, nobody will care about someone like me even if I become a hero, and the fact a hypocrite like Aizawa was ready to just throw me away like a piece of trash proves how little the heroes care about us as people. They just see us as weapons for their war on villains. My hand's right in front of you. Reaching out to shake Hagakure's hand took a few attempts before Midoriya found her hand and shook it. Repeating what he did with Minta, he heard the word truth again. Gyro stood in silence. Why do you have to make so much damn sense, you stupid villain? You should be a crazy sadist who wants to watch the world burn. Why can't things be black and white like in the stories we grew up with? Gyro began breaking down into tears. She clearly wanted Midoriya to be insane and to be an aimless murderer or something, but instead he was a calculated villain with solid beliefs that made way too much sense. Cause things never are black and white, Gyro. I'm sorry, but if it's any comfort, I am actually a sadist, so you got me on something there, and while technically yes, I wish to burn this society to the ground, it is so a new one may rise from the ashes like the glorious phoenix. As Midoriya spoke, Gyro chuckled at his remarks about her being right on a few things, but what shocked her to the core was as he hugged her as she cried. His hug felt warm, brotherly, comforting. This was the final nail in the coffin for Gyro. As she stopped crying, Midoriya released her from his gentle hug and smiled at her, only to get a slap across the face. That's for being a villain and hugging me. Now where do I sign? I've been here for under an hour and been treated better by this League of Villains than I have been at UA. Midoriya rubbed his face and shook Gyro's hand. Once again Midoriya's thoughts echoed, truth. Kurogiri warped the three new recruits away along with Monoma and Kamakiri. Nice work on persuading those newbies with that forked tongue of yours, Izuku. Oh, and especially good job with that last one, Lady Killer. Shigaraki said, laughing at Midoriya, making him blush a bit. Shut up, you crusty game addict. It isn't like that. She's just a subordinate like the others. Besides, villains don't do stuff like that. Well, smart ones don't. Shigaraki kept laughing, waving Midoriya off as he left. Shigaraki soon went back to drinking and going over some papers marked USJ. Outro. Thank you all for indulging yourselves in all this information thus far. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, there are a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, if you're in the mood for some great storytelling, We The Celestials has got you covered. Are We The Celestials, My Hero Academia, and Naruto What If channels retell the story of their namesake anime with a twist. Check it out if you're interested. Secondly, on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details can be found in the description below. Lastly, if you're interested in what we do here at We The Celestials, then I'd like to extend you an invitation to join the team. The only caveat being that we only accept members from 16 years and up to join our crew. You can sign up for whichever category fulfills your interests by joining the recruitment Discord using the link in the description below. We're always looking for members to join us. Well, that's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching and have a great day.